There's a restaurant in Tokyo called Saito. You can't call to make a reservation. You can't book online. You get in because an existing guest introduces you, and the chef decides whether he wants you there. People wait years. The room is small, 10 seats at the bar. Chef Takashi Saito goes to Toyosu Market every morning and selects the fish himself. He doesn't use refrigeration. Every piece arrives in front of you at the exact moment he's decided it should be eaten. One person, one meal, $400, starting. And on the same day, tens of millions of people are sitting at conveyor belt counters somewhere, watching a loop of plates spin past, a child's eyes tracking the colors, arms shooting out when something looks right, eating it in one bite, then turning back to watch the next one come around. Both of those things are sushi. That's what this episode is about, how one food learned to live so well at the very top and the very bottom at the same time. Welcome to Zenith Massif, a concierge for a different way of seeing. The stories hiding in plain sight, the adventures you didn't know to look for, taste and investment unfiltered. The earliest form of sushi originated in Southeast Asia, moved up through the Mekong River basin into China, and arrived in Japan somewhere between the 4th and 8th centuries. It bore almost no visual resemblance to anything you'd recognize today. It was a preservation method, fish packed into rice with salt, left to ferment for months, sometimes years. When the fermentation was done, the rice was discarded. You ate the fish. Funazushi from Shiga Prefecture, Crucian carp fermented with rice for over a year, is still made today. First-timers almost universally ask, what does this have to do with sushi? But this is the ancestor. During the Muromachi period, someone shortened the fermentation time and started eating the rice along with the fish. During the Edo period, someone figured out that adding rice vinegar directly could produce the same acidity without waiting at all. A preservation process that took months compressed into something that took minutes. Then, 1824, Edo, a chef named Hanaya Yohei, pressed vinegared rice into an oval in his palm and laid a slice of fresh fish on top. That gesture, the birth of nigiri, has been repeated tens of millions of times every day in every major city on Earth for 200 years. 1947. Higashi Osaka, a man named Yoshiaki Shiraishi, opened a standing sushi bar called Mawaru Genroku Sushi. Post-war Japan was short on labor. His restaurant was busy, but staff kept quitting, and he couldn't run the place alone. He needed a way to get sushi to every customer without requiring that many people to do it. One day, he visited the Asahi Brewery in Osaka and stood watching the bottling line, bottles moving along a conveyor belt, fast, smooth, continuous. He stood there for a long time. He spent the next 5 years working with a machinery manufacturer to adapt the concept for a restaurant. One engineering problem occupied him. At the corners, how do you design the belt joints so the plates don't jam? He found the answer looking at a deck of cards fanned open. The arc of the spread suggested a fan-shaped link that could navigate a curve. He also switched from round plates to rectangular ones, because round plates tended to drift and spin on a moving belt. Then there was the question of speed. Too fast and customers can't grab anything. Too slow and the sushi loses its freshness and people get impatient. Shiraishi ran tests at multiple speeds. He landed on 8 centimeters per second. That remains the global standard for kaiten sushi to this day. 1958, Osaka. The first conveyor belt sushi restaurant opened for business. Traditional sushi chefs almost unanimously opposed it. Putting sushi on a conveyor belt was an insult to the food. Shiraishi's son later said, most people thought his father would fail, but he was not someone who gave up. At the Osaka World Expo, Shiraishi installed a kaiten sushi display in the exhibition. People from around the world saw it for the first time. After that, conveyor belt sushi spread across Japan rapidly. 1975, his conveyor belt patent expired. Anyone could build one. The Japanese kaiten sushi chains exploded from that point forward. The business logic of what Shiraishi did is obvious. Reduce labor costs, increase table turnover, make sushi available to more people at a lower price. But what it actually accomplished went further than efficiency. Before kaiten sushi, sushi in Japan was a formal occasion. Sitting at a high-end sushi bar, the chef pressing each piece to order, the experience carried a certain solemnity and a price that kept most people away. The conveyor belt cut that threshold away. It said, "Sushi belongs to everyone now." A person finishes work and sits at the counter alone. No conversation required, no engagement with the chef, no social pressure. See something, take it, eat, leave. A group of friends, 5 people, one wants salmon, one wants sea urchin, one wants takoyaki, all of it available simultaneously. Nobody waiting on anyone else, nobody compromising. Families with children. That's the scene I find most interesting. The child sits there, eyes locked on the belt, tracking the colors. A plate arrives, the arm goes out, plate comes down, one bite, then back to watching the next one approach. That excitement, that autonomy, the specific feeling of being the one who decides what gets eaten today, for a child that's a real experience. A lot of adults who now spend serious money on omakase trace their first relationship with sushi back to that belt, back to the anticipation of watching a plate come around the corner. The conveyor belt built the first connection between multiple generations and sushi. That connection is what eventually led many of them, years later, to seek out the deeper version. The global kaiten sushi market today is estimated at over $15 billion. Sushiro, Kura Sushi, Hama Sushi, each of these Japanese chains runs hundreds to thousands of locations with annual revenues in the tens of billions of yen. But the more interesting story is what it's become. The original kaiten sushi was just sushi on a belt. Walk into a modern Japanese conveyor belt restaurant, and it's an entirely different experience. Tablets at every seat. You order directly, and a separate express track delivers your order straight to you. Faster than the conveyor belt, more precise, and the sushi doesn't spend time circling under the lights. AI inventory management. The major Japanese chains now use AI systems to calculate guest counts by time slot, track consumption rates of each ingredient, and identify plates that have been on the belt too long. Kura Sushi's system uses cameras to monitor the state of every plate and automatically pulls anything that's been out past a set threshold. The plate game. Kura Sushi built a mechanic into the table. Finish 5 plates, drop them into the return slot, and a game appears on screen with a chance to win a small prize. It makes children happier. It also makes adults eat a few more plates without quite noticing. It's a very clean piece of behavioral design. The menu stopped being just sushi a long time ago. Fried items, ramen, desserts, karaage chicken, pudding. The modern kaiten sushi restaurant is a broad Japanese family dining format. Kura Sushi USA's fiscal year 2025 revenue in the US, $283 million, up 19% year over year. It's expanding American locations at pace, bringing the kaiten format to American families who have never set foot in a traditional sushi restaurant. After all of that, I want to go to the other end. Japanese has a word, shokunin, craftsman, but more than that, a person who has given their life to one discipline. An apprentice entering a serious sushi restaurant doesn't touch fish in the first year, doesn't press a single piece of nigiri. The first year is towels, learning to wring a towel to the exact right temperature and moisture level, and when to offer it. Then years of cooking rice, the variety of the rice, the water ratio, the timing of the heat, the amount of vinegar, and the temperature at which it gets folded in. Every element has a standard. All of it takes time for the body to memorize, not just the mind. Tamago, the Japanese rolled egg, something that looks simple. In Jiro Ono's kitchen, a decade passes before an apprentice is permitted to make it. Jiro Ono, Sukiyabashi Jiro, Tokyo. In his 90s now, still working every day, he has said, "I keep doing the same thing. There are no shortcuts, and there is no finish line. I am never satisfied with my sushi." That permanent dissatisfaction, that's the core of the shokunin philosophy. It sits in fundamental contrast to the Western approach to a career. Western logic says, acquire a skill and use it as a platform to move toward the next goal. The shokunin logic says, go deeper into this one thing. Assume you have not yet found the bottom. The relationship between master and apprentice is called oyakata in Japanese, literally, the person who is like a father. The transmission isn't only technical. Takashi Saito trained under Keiji Nakazawa. When Saito went out on his own, Nakazawa didn't just wish him well, he introduced his own clients to Saito. That kind of lineage has become the DNA of how the craft propagates. A lot of people treat Japanese sushi as a single thing. It isn't. Idomai Sushi in Tokyo. Speed is its personality. The chef presses the piece and you eat it immediately. A full meal might run 10 to 20 minutes. The seasoning is usually applied by the chef before it reaches you. The rhythm is quick and deliberate, carrying the efficiency of the Edo merchant culture. Fish handling emphasizes aging, drawing out the deeper layers of flavor from the ingredient. Osaka's hakozushi is pressed into rectangular wooden molds and cut into sections. Visually rich, slightly sweet, close to edible art. The sweetness in Osaka sushi is an expression of hospitality, a quality that runs through the city's food culture broadly. Kyoto's sabazushi, vinegar-cured mackerel wrapped with kombu, left overnight for the flavors to penetrate. Refined, restrained, with an aristocratic composure that's completely consistent with Kyoto's aesthetic sensibility as a whole. Hokkaido is a different logic entirely. Sea urchin, salmon roe, horse crab, king crab, scallops, ingredients that carry one price at Toyosu Market and a different number altogether at the fishing ports where they come out of the water. Hokkaido sushi is built around the state of this morning's catch. That directness, that immediacy from sea to counter, is a completely different language from Tokyo's aging philosophy. The market in Hakodate opens at 5:30 in the morning, standing there with a bowl of fresh sea urchin rice, the urchin from the Tsugaru Strait, from that specific body of water with its particular temperature, current, and food chain. There's a sweetness and a creaminess that can't be replicated anywhere else. The Hokkaido uni you get at a top Tokyo sushi bar is already as good as it gets. What you eat at 5:30 a.m. in Hakodate is something else. Sushi's global spread began with immigration. After the Meiji Restoration, large numbers of Japanese emigrated to Hawaii, the American mainland, Brazil, Peru. They carried technique and knowledge, not the ingredients. The California roll happened in Los Angeles in the 1970s. A chef at Tokyo Kaikan replaced sea urchin with avocado and flipped the nori to the inside, so Americans who weren't comfortable with seaweed on the outside could eat it. That accommodation opened the world. Peru is the more layered story. Japanese immigrants began arriving in 1899 in large numbers. Decades later, their descendants brought Japanese knife technique and the Japanese attitude toward ingredients and put them alongside Peruvian yellow chili, leche de tigre, fish from the Amazon. The fusion has a name, Nikki cuisine. Tiradito looks like sashimi, but is dressed with leche de tigre, citrus, chili, fish sauce, acid and heat and brightness arriving at the same moment. The angle of the cut and the attention to thickness are Japanese. The flavor is Peruvian. Mitsuharu Tsumura's restaurant Maido in Lima has spent consecutive years in the world's 50 best restaurants list. He says what he's making is a third thing, the natural outcome of two culinary civilizations coexisting in the same kitchen for 100 years. The mei in Edomai means in front of Edo. Use what this place has, make sushi from that. That same spirit is what the London chef is expressing when he takes Scottish salmon and North Sea scallops and handles them according to Japanese aging principles. It's what Tsumura is doing in Lima. Two different locals placed in conversation. After globalization, sushi stopped having just one version. Keiji Nakazawa, Sushi Sho. Many of the apprentices he trained have named their restaurants using the word sho as an acknowledgement. Those restaurants now exist in Tokyo, Honolulu, New York, and beyond. In 2024, he opened a New York outpost near Bryant Park, and the New York Times put it in the top 10 of their 2025 best restaurants list. His definition of a master's legacy isn't the most expensive sushi. It's how many students he trained who can stand on their own. Daisuke Nakazawa, Jiro Ono's apprentice. He appears in the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi. There's a scene where he's crying because he finally made a tamago that Jiro said was right. That approval took him months to earn. He later moved to New York and opened Sushi Nakazawa, which became one of the most sought-after reservations in the city. Mitsuharu Tsumura, Lima, Maido. He studied engineering before switching to culinary training, then went back to Peru and rediscovered what two kitchens combined in his own blood could make. Purple potato vinegared rice, leche de tigre cured fish, ingredients that only appear in a specific season in a specific place. The cooking isn't fusion as a concept. It's the result of actually living at the intersection. Omakase means I'll leave it to you. The guest defers to the chef to decide what's served. After Jiro Dreams of Sushi came out in 2011, the word became a global signifier. Precision, trust, craftsmanship. Restaurants started attaching it to their menus everywhere. Prices from $150 to $500 and up. The problem is, a lot of what's being sold is the form of omakase, without the substance. Real omakase requires that the chef builds the menu daily around what's actually best that day. Every decision is a technical judgment. The imitation version, fixed menu, same every night, frozen fish, a chef who trained for a few months, sitting behind a wooden counter with the right ambient lighting, charging you $400. The Globe and Mail coined the term bromakase for a pattern that emerged. Wealthy young men using high-end sushi as social performance, deeply interested in the price and not particularly curious about what's in front of them. Omakase shifted for a certain demographic from a dining philosophy into a status transaction. The tale isn't complicated. Ask the chef where the fish came from today and what condition it's in. If the answer is specific, it's probably real. If the answer is everything is the freshest, that's your signal to recalibrate expectations. Japan accounts for roughly 80% of global bluefin tuna consumption. In 2016, the International Union for Conservation of Nature assessed Pacific bluefin tuna populations at 3.3% of their unfished baseline. That number means if commercial fishing had never happened, there would be 30 times as many of these fish in the ocean right now. Toyosu Market's New Year's auction. In 2013, a 222-kilogram bluefin sold for 155 million yen, roughly $1.8 million. The auction communicates abundance. In the actual ocean, that abundance is disappearing. Japan's Pacific Sori catch fell from 350,000 tons in 2008 to 20,000 tons in 2021, a 94% decline in 13 years. Kinki University has been researching closed-cycle bluefin tuna farming since the 1970s and successfully produced the first fully farmed specimens in 2002. Japan's largest seafood company, Maruha Nishiro, is now partnering with a Singapore biotech firm on cell-cultivated tuna meat, with a target market date of 2027. The fish that built this culture may not survive the demand the culture generates. That tension doesn't resolve cleanly. It just sits there, in every piece of otoro on every high-end counter in the world. After 2000, a split started developing in the global sushi world. On one side, the traditional Edomai mainstream, aging, temperature-controlled vinegared rice, the Shokunin lineage, Saito and Jiro and Sushi Show at the apex. On the other side, a group of chefs beginning to take sushi technique and apply it outside the traditional framework. Hakoku, Tokyo. Chef Hiroyuki Sato ages his rice at more than 3 times the duration of standard Edomai practice, making the rice itself the central expressive element rather than just a backdrop for the fish. He has said, "Everyone is cooking fish. I want to cook rice." Endo at the Rotunda in London. Chef Endo Kazutoshi uses British ingredients, Scottish salmon, English Channel lobster, processed according to Japanese aging principles. The result is what he calls British Edome. In Tokyo, there are chefs who preserve the Edomai philosophy while dismantling the traditional form. One uses a thin sheet made from squid paste in place of nori, wrapping the rice and topping together. The texture in the mouth is semi-transparent, slightly elastic, neither the crunch of seaweed nor the softness of rice. A third thing, the yuzu peel doesn't announce itself until after it's already inside your mouth. The rebellion isn't a rejection of tradition. It's an inheritance of the deepest part of the tradition, honesty about the state of the ingredient, and a decision to practice that honesty somewhere new. Japanese food culture has often traveled through manga. Shota no Sushi, Shota Sushi ran in Weekly Shonen magazine beginning in 1992. Shota Sekiguchi's family runs a sushi restaurant in Otaru, Hokkaido, threatened by chain competition. He apprentices under a Tokyo master, learns a different technique each chapter, competes in national tournaments. The manga takes the technical details of sushi seriously and wraps the shokunin philosophy inside a coming-of-age story. It was adapted for television and made sushi one of the defining pop culture subjects of the 1990s in Japan. Sushi Police 2016. a short animated series built as political satire. The premise: the Japanese government forms a special task force to track down inauthentic Japanese cuisine around the world. It's a joke about something that actually happened. In 2006, Japan's Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries seriously debated establishing an overseas certification system for Japanese restaurants, with government-issue authenticity stamps. The proposal was criticized domestically as culinary nationalism and was never implemented. Sushi Police asks the real question beneath the debate. When a food travels the world and changes, is that cultural exchange or cultural contamination? Jiro Dreams of Sushi, 2011, director David Gelb. This film brought Jiro Ono and the Shokunin philosophy to global attention and directly drove the omakase wave that followed in the 2010s. Making a version at home that genuinely surprises people requires getting a few things right. The rice is everything. Use Japanese short-grain sushi rice, not long-grain, slightly less water than standard. While it's still hot, fold in sushi vinegar, roughly 3 parts vinegar to 1 part salt to 2 parts sugar. Fan it cool, so the rice develops a sheen and the grains stay distinct. When you're ready to press, the rice should be close to body temperature. Cold rice straight from the refrigerator on a piece of sushi is a significant error. For fish, buy sashimi grade. If you're using tuna, don't eat it the same day. Wrap it in kitchen paper, refrigerate for 24 hours, let the muscle relax. The texture improves meaningfully. To press, a portion of rice in the right palm, the fish laid across with the left index finger. Then flip, pressing the fish gently with the right index finger to conform it. Rotate the piece. Shape the sides with both hands into an oval. The pressure throughout should be light. The rice needs to keep its air. To eat, the entire piece sideways, fish and rice contacting the tongue simultaneously. That's the ratio the chef designed. Eating it any other way is reading a page out of order. The global sushi restaurant market is estimated between $20 and $28 billion, depending on what gets counted, but every measure points to an industry in fast growth. Kaiten Sushi alone accounts for over $15 billion of that. At the top, Sushi Kiraman in Osaka's Kiwami Omakase, 20 pieces of nigiri, 350,000 yen, roughly $2,475, recognized by Guinness in 2023 as the most expensive sushi in the world. Sukiyabashi Jiro, around $400 per person. Sushi Noz in New York, $495. Masa in New York, 2 people, a full evening with wine, $3,000 is not unusual. At the other end, Sushiro in Japan, roughly 100 yen a plate, less than $1. Over 600 locations in Japan, tens of millions of visits per year. The top and bottom are both growing, independently, without affecting each other. This food has learned to exist in different registers, different contexts, different conversations, with different people, simultaneously. Very few foods on earth have managed that. I want to end with Yoshiaki Shiraishi. He stood in that brewery watching bottles move along a conveyor belt and had one thought: if this can move bottles, it can move sushi. That thought turned sushi from something with a threshold into something anyone could walk up to. And what that created, those first memories of watching a plate come around the corner, eating it in one bite, turning back to wait for the next, is where a lot of people's relationship with this food began. Someone who spends $1,000 on omakase tonight probably has that image somewhere in their past. A family dinner, a Tuesday after school, a plate with an orange lid. That's where it started. Sushi has been traveling for 2,000 years, from a preservation technique on the banks of the Mekong, through fermentation and vinegar and the cold grip of Hokkaido water, through post-war Osaka and 1970s Los Angeles, and a kitchen in Lima. Do you like sushi? Leave a comment and let us know. Or find us on Substack where the conversation goes further. Paid members get early access to what's coming next. Next episode, we're heading downtown, Lower Manhattan. See you there.